Hello, everyone. It's just Jeffrey joining you for this episode of Historic New Jersey. And today we are continuing on the Revolutionary War Trail here in Titusville, New Jersey at Washington's Crossing State Park. So this is what we're currently in is the visitor center / museum of the park.
Correct. This is the older one. It was built in the Bicentennial, 1976. We are currently in the process of building a brand new museum closer to the river, so you have a better look at the river. Currently, we're about a half-mile away. You can't really experience the river without a long walk, so we'll be much closer, and we're excited that that'll be opening sometime in mid-26.
Oh, very nice. So it's currently under construction?
It is currently under construction, yes.
That's great. So here in this particular center, what are some of the things that we have on display or had on display in the past, or at any points of interest?
Our main things that are on display is we have a fantastic collection of American Revolutionary artifacts. They are owned by the Swan Historical Foundation, Inc., and they loan them to us. They've been on display here in this current building for the last 45 plus years. One of my former colleagues, Kel Swan, it's his family's collection. And then he created a nonprofit, the Swan Foundation, who currently owns it and loans it to us so that we can show it off to the public. And we have some really fantastic pieces that will be really highlighted in our new museum. Our probably top piece is what we call the boat order, which was written to Colonel Richard Humpton of the 11th Pennsylvania on December 1st from Brunswick, today New Brunswick. Telling him to gather boats in this area, paying particular attention to the Durham boats, as well as flat or ferry boats. And then those boats are utilized to escape to Pennsylvania on December 7th and 8th of 1776, hidden and then reused in the famous Christmas night crossing. So indirectly, it's one of the orders that gets the boats for the famous crossing of the Delaware. What we have here are a pair of epaulets. These are for a brigadier general owned by Daniel Bray. So he gathered many of the boats that would also be utilized during the famous crossing of the Delaware River. Next to that, we have a Masonic jewel, again also owned by Daniel Bray. The next thing that we have is his widow had to write up his proof of service. Pensions were not available to soldiers until much later. In the 18-teens is when the first official pension act is put out, and that also included money for widows and children. So this is the proof of service that would have went along with that pension application. So the Johnson Ferry House is our most historic building in the park. It is the only structure on either side of the river that was here on the night of the crossing, and improvements included an entire exterior restoration, fence around the garden, new pathways, just a really beautiful restoration of the building to make it closer to what would have been here in 1776. Across the way we have the stone barn, or also called the Harvey Barn. This building is post-revolution. It was built in the late 1780s, early 1790s on the original foundation of the barn that was here attached to the Johnson Ferry House. There would have been other outbuildings in this location as well during the Revolution, but we restored this barn as well.
Now, Mark, this is it. This is where it happened.
This is where it happened. Here we are on the banks of the Delaware River, where one of the most important events in American history happened. This was the beginning of the 10 Crucial Days campaign, which stemmed the British tide of conquest that was practically overwhelming up to this point. Ever since the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July, everybody was getting behind that, those who wanted to be independent from Great Britain. But that was 6 months ago. And in that 6 months, the British Army has defeated General Washington and the Continental Army over and over again around the environs of New York, from the Battle of Long Island or Brooklyn through the Battle of White Plains, and forced the Americans to retreat through New Jersey to the safety of Pennsylvania. This is that letter that I was discussing where Washington writes, they get the boats, they escape to Pennsylvania, they hide them over in Pennsylvania until that moment when Washington decides that he's going to come back and strike back into the heart of New Jersey and hopefully get a victory and turn that tide of conquest of the British back and get people back behind the cause. Because so many people at this point, both Americans and British, think that this war is over. The rebellion has been crushed. All they need to do is finish off Washington's army, and by the springtime there might not even be an army to fight anymore. So the British are so confident in themselves
that they don't even expect
that they don't expect anything that's about to happen. And then General Washington has a meeting with his generals, and they decide that they are going to cross the Delaware River here on Christmas night and attack the Hessian garrison that is located in Trenton, New Jersey, about a 9+ mile march from here. So we definitely have a situation where the soldiers are not that well maintained or supplied in terms of clothing in some situations, but they are willing. These are the guys that are the stalwarts, the true patriots, the ones that didn't disappear. They didn't walk away, they didn't desert. They stayed with General Washington to the end, and they are here with him. They don't even know where they're going, but he said to let's go, and they are on their way to see what they can do. And they're probably emboldened as well, because for once in the last 6 months, they're not moving away from the enemy. They're taking the fight to the enemy. So that may have emboldened them as well during this march. So once they get across the river, as I said, 9 to 10 hours to get across, they form up, they begin the march to Trenton. The march itself will end up taking about 4 hours. Halfway there in what is today West Trenton, at the time Birmingham Meeting House, they will split the army. They stop for a short rest, and then they split the army into two. One unit under General Sullivan's division will continue down the River Road into Trenton from the west, essentially, from the northwest. And then General Greene, accompanied by General Washington, will head out the Scotch Road to the Pennington Road and come into the north end of town, enabling them to hit the town from two sides at one time. They had originally hoped to also have that third contingent from General Ewing crossing from Pennsylvania, which did not occur. But they do have that element of surprise that they are able to push in the Hessian pickets, their sentries, fairly quickly. But don't think that was easy. The Hessian sentries put up a very stiff fight for the amount of men that they have. One of the officers comes out of one of the buildings and sees movement in the distance, doesn't know what it is, and then suddenly realizes that it's the Americans, and he's "Der Feind, the enemy," and calls everybody out, and they do as best a job as they can to slow down that advance. But in the meantime, the Americans just keep being able to bring another unit around each side until they eventually will surround the town. The Hessians do make a couple attempts to break out, trying to hit that flank, but the Americans just were able to completely encircle them to the point that the Hessians are forced to surrender. And General Washington has his first major battlefield victory, capturing over 900 Hessians out of the 1,200 plus that were there. 300 to 400 do escape over that bridge that was not able to be sealed off before General Sullivan's men are able to swing around and cut that bridge off to finish the encirclement of the Hessian garrison. I always like to kind of tie it up with a paraphrase of a quote of a Virginian that hears about these victories a couple of days later, a week or so later. And he says, prior to these victories in New Jersey, the local recruiting parties for the Americans couldn't get a single soul to join them. And now they're all liberty mad again. So that just shows in a microcosm how important those victories were. Doesn't win the war. It's going to take 6 more years of long, arduous fighting to win our independence. But without the victories here, it would not have been able to continue.
I want to thank Mark Sirak for the wonderful tour. I want to thank the staff here at the Washington Crossing State Park for being so wonderfully accommodating. And we are absolutely going to be back to visit and tour and hopefully film at your new location, at the new museum.
That would be awesome. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
So stay tuned for our next episode of Historic New Jersey.